Okay, thanks for asking me this, Nikki, actually, because been wanting to make a video on keelboat starting for a lot of stuff I'm doing right now, so if I do a good job of this, it'll maybe be part of it, or this will be the practice run, and then I'll get better at giving this talk, so this was timely. Been doing a lot of different keelboat starts for a lot of different owner drivers right now, and doing pretty good at it. We've had a lot of starts have been a strength for sure. And one of the things that I've been doing is always repeating a similar process, which you guys know is an effective approach all the time. So the start process, which is in that Vaqueros video I sent you, this is the process that we did in that video. You can't really see anything except for the data on the Vaqueros in that video, so you're missing where the boat actually sailed. So let's just try to go through it as quick and simple as I can here. Alright, here's the start line. Alright, we're going to make it simple, maybe not super quick. Starts out, there's a thing you'll hear like old PHRF racers say, they do a Vanderbilt start, right? And a Vanderbilt start is just a timed loop. So let's say at 2 minutes, you're right here, you sail out this way, you tack at 1 minute, sail back, and then that means at go, you should be in the exact same spot, right? Sail this way for a minute, tack, sail this way for a minute, and then that puts you exactly where you want to be, as long as you're exactly where you wanted to be at 2 minutes, right? And then you just sheet in and go from there. Obviously, starting on a beam reach like that doesn't really work so great in a fleet race, and even starting at the angle you want to start at, a little deeper in the box, more upwind, you have to have burn time factored in, right? You can't just be a minute away with a minute to go, because bad air and other boats are going to slow you down and get in your way. So what I do, we can call it a vertical Vanderbilt, with burn time factored in. So the 2 minute loop of this, and I've found having 30 seconds of burn time to be the best. So every keelboat start that I've done recently, I usually do some form of this process and end up on starboard tack with 30 seconds of burn time with 1 minute and 15 seconds on the clock. Okay, that second part's important. Or more time on the clock, which I'll get into later. But not less time on the clock. At minute 15 is when I'm burning time. You know, between 1 minute 15 and 20 seconds that's the time period where I shave off those 30 seconds by doing a high build. Okay? So let's say I want to start in the middle of the line or an end, wherever. Let's say I want to start, we'll just do the middle. In the middle of the line, I want to be where I want to start at 2 minutes if we're doing a 2 minute loop version. I've done a 3 minute loop version of this on a bigger boat with an owner driver who I was new to and our communication wasn't as good yet. And drawing out the process into a 3 minute loop actually helped a lot. I still did 30 seconds of burn time in the 3 minute loop. But the 2 minute loop is put the boat right where you want to be at 2 minutes, in this case on the line in the middle of the line. So like 2 minutes, 15 seconds, maybe you're up here, and you just kind of reach to the place you want to be at the start, kind of paralleling the line on port. Sometimes I'll do it at the boat at one of the ends, so I'm right at the end at 2 minutes, right? But wherever it is, put yourself full speed on port at 2 minutes where you want to be. If you're doing it perfect, your bow would be on the line and you would already be on the angle that I like to do the port in on the pre-start, which is as low as you can go on port without slowing down. Okay, so broad reaching on port, pretty much 180 degrees to your close hauled angle. I'll be reaching here before 2 minutes. At 2 minutes, I have my driver come down, and I just have them keep bearing away until the boat's almost about to slow down. If the boat starts to slow down, you have to heat back up. That's too low. Okay? Because for most keel boats, the speed that they broad reach at downwind with only 2 sails is almost the exact same speed they come upwind at. So the 2 minute loop is 2 minutes on the line, and you can remember on the line exactly where you want to be to start. And then broad reach port, Maybe I don't have to write this all down if you just pay attention. It's a video anyway, so you can rewind. So 2 minutes, rod reaching on port. Now, what time do I want to turn around if I want 30 seconds of burn time? Right? Pause the video so you can think about it in your head, because I'm going to tell you the answer in a sec. The answer in a 2-minute loop is 1 minute and 15 seconds, right? I want to be mid turnaround at 1 minute and 15 seconds. And the maneuver takes a little bit of time, so you want to factor that in. So I want to be halfway through my bottom turn on a beam reach, heading up at 1 minute and 15 seconds. Okay. Now something that I'll do, which I think is very helpful, is I'll always tell my skipper at this point, okay, like at 1 minute 20 seconds, or depending on the boat, maybe before that, saying stand by, close hauled on port, right? And then when I want them to start to make that turn, I say, okay, close hauled on port now. So at 1 minute and 18 seconds, I say close hauled on port now. Takes 3 seconds to get through this much of the turn, right? And then we're halfway through the turn at 1 minute 15 seconds. And at 1 minute 14 seconds, we're already coming up. And I come up to close hauled on port. Okay? Now, with this vertical Vanderbilt, whether you're sailing upwind on port or sailing upwind on starboard, it does the same thing to your time to burn and your time to line, right? You're sailing upwind to a line. So if you're sailing upwind on port or upwind on starboard, the time to the line is the same in both of those scenarios. You're just changing where you're lining up on the line. So I like to go upwind on port, look over my shoulder, and I can call my lay line. And if I want to be a little farther up or even at the boat, this is a good way to do it. Okay, or if there's traffic that I want to negotiate, depending on what the fleet's doing, I can use this to kind of pick up and set my lane. Okay, that I want to initially approach with on starboard. Then from there, I'll tack onto starboard. Sometimes it's just a quick turnaround, but I like to do the close hauled on port because the other thing that does is it tells the crew, hey, we need to trim our sails perfectly through this turn into close hauled and then a race mode tack. If you just say tack from a broad reach, people tend to trim like shit. So you go close hauled on port, then race tack, right? So then now, if you've done all that properly, you end up there with like 1 minute, 10 seconds, and still just under 30 seconds to burn. You probably burned a little bit doing this or whatever, right? So then from there, I'll sail to the line on close hauled, and I've got 30 seconds that I'm early, or just under 30 seconds early, and what I do with that time is I use that to tactically position into an advantageous position relative to other boats. And that could be many different things, right? If I'm down here more, maybe it's a double tack. If I'm, a little farther than I want to be, it might be beam reaching. But the one thing that we do want to do is somewhere in this is just run through this example, you're a little high, you want to come down, beam reach, okay? Now you're burning time beam reaching, because you're not pointing to where you want to go, but you're also ripping, right? That's the angle where the boat really, really rips its hardest and goes super, super fast. So I want to build as much power, as much force, as momentum into the boat, into the sail plan as I possibly can. Just press pause and play. So then I'm ripping as fast as I can, generated as much power in the keel and the sails as possible, and the reason I want all that power is so that I can take a high build head to wind and have that drawn out for as long as possible. So what does it do for me when I can carve head to wind here and glide head to wind for the maximum number of boat lengths possible? What's that do? Pause the video and think. And the answer is it opens up your gap to leeward, right? And the more power and speed you can generate in this beam reach mode, the longer you can go head to wind relative to the boats next to you on either side. So you end up squeezing tight to the boat to windward of you and opening up a gap to the boat to leeward of you. Okay? And from there, we're just approaching the line, burning time as we're going slow, right? Letting the time wind down off the clock while we're opening up a gap to leeward, coming up to the line. And then from there, the only thing you need is good judgment of when to pull the trigger and say go, right? So at some point, you have to know kind of what your acceleration point is, which is the time and distance you want to be from the line to pull the trigger and say go. And then that's what you do, right? You get to wherever that is, pull the trigger, say go, and win the start. And that's where doing the same process, always approaching the line with the same amount of time to burn, is super, super powerful. Because it just builds into your brain a very, very high awareness of where you are in the starting line. If you do it the same every time, you're used to seeing things the same way, being in the same position, and you'll just kind of naturally develop a good feeling for when that trigger pull time is, right? Especially if you're using technology. We'll have to add a second part to this talk about how to actually use the technology. So that's pretty much it, right? For the 3-minute loop, which is good if you're a bigger boat or a boat that doesn't turn good, or you're not quite as maneuverable. 3-minute loop, what time do you turn around with for 30 seconds to burn on a 3-minute loop? The answer is 1 minute and 45 seconds, right? I forgot to say pause the video. So that means that here you're at 3 minutes, right? You sail downwind until 1 minute 45 seconds, bottom turning at 1 minute and 45 seconds, and you're turning back, right? So that means at 1 minute and 45 seconds, you're 1 minute and 15 seconds away from the line with 1 minute and 45 seconds to go, so that's 30 seconds to burn, right? The 2-minute loop, you're 45 seconds away from the line, right, with 1 minute and 15 seconds to go, so it's still, in both scenarios, 30 seconds to burn, and approaching the line from deep in the box with the same burn time is, again, a great strategy, right? Yeah, okay. Now, the one thing you need to watch out for, and you can see this and you watch the Vacros video, watch how fast the time to burn and time to line numbers are changing as you're sailing away from the line on port, right? They're changing very, very fast. Like, you can, like the way the one instrument does it, is it shows you a line on the graph of time to line, right? Or time to burn, which is like accurate timing to the line. And so you're sailing down as the ladder rung that is on time, full speed is approaching, and that closing speed gets really, really, really fast. So what I'm trying to illustrate is, if you screw this up, the rate at which you're screwing it up, the time's like multiplied, and if half a boat length off becomes a full boat length off, 1 boat length off becomes 2 boat lengths off. So this gets real critical, and what you can do, especially if the other fleet's not playing this deep in the box game and they're all just beam reaching around here, you can do a longer drawn out bottom turn and that maybe is not as good for your timing, but it's safer, potentially, especially if you're new to this process. I'm good at this process and have done it a ton, so I don't really need to do that so much. But yeah, you can react to the fleet in this situation and use the space that you have, right? Yeah. So you want to create space, and then you want to use all the space you have. One of the ways you create space is by doing this giant low, fast power build, right? And then when you're coming up high, you're creating space. Another way you're creating space is when you go close hauled on port, right? If you do the one where you go close hauled on port and you're sailing upwind on port on time, right? You're accurately ranging your time on distance to the line, but then you're also can adjust your target start point by choosing when to tack back to starboard, right? While you're also timing your approach to the line. So you want to create space, create that gap to leeward, just like in dinghies. And then another good tip is, like, use all the space that you have, right? So there was one time I was doing an islands race on a big 60-foot boat, and I forgot, I was the offside trim, I think. So someone else was calling the start, but they were kind of like open in their communication, like they were asking for feedback or something. We were just kind of all talking. And we wanted to win the pin, so we were sailing this way on the pin, right? And we saw the whole fleet coming up here. And if you want to win the pin, and you're setting up to be the most left-hand course left boat on port, and let's say you want to do my approach perfectly, right? Where you come down here, do this, loop around, build speed, and then you're head to wind here. I've got a good Etchells video of us doing exactly that. That's like, there's a low margin of error, it's kind of high risk, right? So respond to the fleet, don't just like, make it easier on yourself whenever possible, right? So if the whole fleet is just not crowding the pin so much, you want dead pin, you don't have to get so deep in the box, you don't have to get so close to ley line. you can sail up to that leewardmost boat, right? Tack just to leeward of them and make it easy, right? If there's a big fight for the pin, you might have to do a perfect job of this to win it, okay? And then one of the ways that's kind of in between these two starts, which is good, which is a great thing to practice. I actually did this on Wednesday on the far 40s start, is kind of a mix of a vertical Vanderbilt and a standard Vanderbilt. And the variation of that I did was, here's dead downwind from the pin end. We were dead downwind from the pin end with 2 minutes to go. Okay, but still kind of deep in the box. And so the variation I did there was reach over here, tack it like a minute, 10 seconds, right, and beam reach back. And if you don't want to start dead pin in this variation, because you're not using up so much vertical space, right, be dead downwind from the pin at 2 minutes, you can be like somewhat aggressive on trying to set up for the leeward side of the boat of the start, but if it looks nasty, just notch up a few spots. So dead downwind of it on 2 minutes, kind of like a tight reach this way, tack exactly at 1 minute, tack back, and you know you're not going to run out of runway to the pin end, right? Which is a powerful thing to know. Then from there, you're comfortable reaching into whatever lane you want, finding somebody to hook, and then you high build to lure to that guy, push them high. Okay. Yeah, that's basically it. Okay, so just one more simple run through, right? 2 minutes and 15 seconds here, right? And they say in this one we want to win the boat. 2 minutes there, right? Rod reaching halfway through the bottom turn at 1 minute and 15 seconds. It's a terrible 5, right? And what I think is important is calling the close hauled on port. Okay, so we come upwind close hauled on port. Then I can actually look over my shoulder and call my ley line. Because what a lot of people will do in their last tack at the start, even if they're not broad reaching, even beam reaching, they'll just go from beam reach into tack. This is like a 140-degree turn or something crazy, right? Not good for boat handling, not good for trimming, not good for control. So instead of, I always try to go upwind close hauled on port. And sometimes it's immediate tack after close hauled on port. But I always like to do that. And then if there's weird shifts happening at this time period, I'll catch that shift at 1 minute 15 seconds, whereas if I was this guy, I won't. Okay, but if I call for close haul on port, check my port tack angle one last time at 1 minute and 10 seconds before I do my last tack. There's a lot of reasons that's good. Okay, tack onto starboard, and then from this tack, this is kind of like your ley line, right? So we're actually above the ley line here of the boat end, or wherever we want to start, even if it's the middle of the line, right? We're above the ley line to where we want to start, but that's not really the way we want to approach the line. We're above it so that we can beam reach down, create a shit ton of power in our setup, right? Then we sail actually below the ley line as low as we can go without losing the ability to get back to it or even above it when we do the high build, right? So then we go head to wind, and this is probably this is probably around 1 minute maybe. I don't know. It depends on the type of boat. The bigger the boat is, the earlier your killing time and the longer your killing time for, right? The more it's a dinghy, you kind of zoom into the spot and luff a little longer, right? Which you guys know. Bigger, heavier boats carry more momentum and accelerate slower, right? The smaller boats carry less momentum but accelerate a lot faster. So that just changes how you burn that 30 seconds. Okay, you take this power head to wind, glide head to wind, glide head to wind, right? And that's like from 50 to 20 seconds, right? And then, somewhere around 15 seconds you probably want to be pulling the trigger. So you're actually above the ley line to your target point here, and then back down to accelerate full speed on time when you start. Okay, I think that's good.